Hi, I'm Zac Poor, and you are listening to Pour Me a Cup, a bold and refreshing podcast fueled by good coffee and unfiltered conversations. After more than a decade in the music industry, I've spent countless hours in studios and small cafes chatting to artists about their unique and inspiring journeys. The intention behind this podcast is to spotlight those intimate conversations in hopes to encourage and inspire our next generation of creators. So grab a mug, post up, and join me in my virtual cafe. This is Pour Me a Cup. Enjoy.
All right. Is that better?
Yeah, the picture looks clearer too.
Okay, hold on. Oh, my body is so tired. I did not mean to skate as long as I skated. So many of my homies live in my neighborhood, and so I was like, I told Chanel the next time I skated by her house, I wanted to like yell your name out loud as hell. Like, she was like, well, next time you're in the area, do it.
Nice.
And so I stood outside of her balcony, like, Chanel. And then she finally came out like, Tiff. And I was like, so we were out, like, I skated for over 2 hours. I've been skating like consecutively every day, like maybe 4 or 5 days a week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Should I turn my music off? Let me turn this music off.
Sure. On this episode of Pour Me a Cup, I'm talking with Grammy Award-winning artist Tiffany Red. The hit songwriter opens up about her struggles with anxiety and depression, how she's coping during the COVID lockdown, and the accident that changed everything. How are you feeling?
Right now I'm on vacation, literally. I decided to take a month vacation from everything.
Oh, good for you.
Like the only things that I'm working on is like stuff that I either want to do or like my stuff.
Yeah.
But even that, I've been like sleep for a week. I'm not tripping about like not being super plugged in right now. So like I've been like turning my phone off early and I've been taking longer to turn it on.
That EP sounds good. I listened again this morning. Yeah, it's good. How'd you come up with the EP title, Seeing Red?
So originally it was called Four because it was my fourth project.
I remember that.
And then Hugh came by. I played him the project, which was none of these songs that I have on the project currently. Right. So I played him like the first installment that I thought was like, I was like, oh my God, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, you know how it goes. And then, you know, so I'm like raving. I play it for him and he's like, that's cool. And you know how it is when like, when you play your stuff for someone you really respect.
Yeah.
And so I wrote Sun with Hugh. It was before that song was on the project, and he was like, yo, your next project, can you do a project called Seeing Red? I was like, yeah, okay. And then he wrote it on my board. It's on this board that's over here. And I was so irritated by it. Like, I just was like, I felt so like, this is what it's supposed to be. And I just didn't want it to be that because it wasn't my idea. No, it's called Four, honey. And these are the 4 songs. It's my 4th project. Like, I just had this whole concept, you know?
Right.
And then, I don't know, I just kept looking at it on the board and then I erased it because it was getting on my nerves. And then I just was like, dang, like, so then I wrote I'm Not Fine. Because like the first original 4 songs were conceptually what I'm talking about, but like sonically, melodically, the way I was singing, it just was like, yo, if this is how you feel, then just say how you feel. Like, stop being a scaredy cat and just fucking say, like, you want to know the truth? I'm not fine. You know.
Well, sometimes we don't say that because we don't want to be honest about that out loud to ourselves either.
I think when he challenged the songs, then I went back to the drawing board on the records, and then the records started to coincide with Seeing Red. And so then I just was like, you know what, like, fuck it. And then so I hit Hugh and I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna change it to Seeing Red, and I think I want to put Sun on this project. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I feel like it's more fitting. I don't know, it just kind of grew legs from there.
Nice. Is a lot of it, did you finish some of it and write some of it in this new apartment?
The writing for it was done, most of it was done here, actually.
Oh, nice.
So the only song that I did that kind of traveled with me was Sun. I started Sun in my Burbank place. So I've written Sun 3 times. Wow. So when I was working on that project 30, remember that project 30 I never put out?
Yep.
So I was working on 30 and that was the first new version. It was like Same Old Part 2 or something like that.
That's
that I wrote. And then like, I never put it out because, I don't know, I was still growing as a woman. And I felt like every time I listened to the song, I didn't feel like that anymore. I remember I played it for Hugh by then it was when I was living downtown, and he loved the record. He loved the concept. And he was like, yo, I would love to revise this with you. So we rewrote it. And then we wrote it again. And so it's been through that same old, this version has been through 3 writes. So it's been written in Burbank, downtown, and Woodland Hills.
It turned out good. Source is crazy too.
I've been working with Source for like, I don't know, at least 4 years. I started working with him with Cassie. That's how I met him. He was an engineer for Cass. And then we kept using him for Cass. And then when I started working on my stuff, I was just like, yo, like, how much do you charge to mix? And it just kind of like went from there, and we just kept building. And to like, he's a producer as well. And I'm like a really big advocate for people's evolution. I feel like, you know, the engineer is never just the engineer. Never. The songwriter is never just a songwriter.
No.
The producer is never just the producer, you know, or executives or anything, you know, there's layers to people. And I think that he's an awesome producer. And so I was like, yo, what's up with these beats?
Yeah. So how are you feeling in the Valley? How's the energy? I know you had just moved there. This stuff started.
It's been waves.
Right.
Yeah, it's been waves. I went into it really confident. Yeah, I was like, oh, like work from home. I got this.
I know, that's how I felt too. I'm like, I do that already.
Yeah. And so I went into it almost kind of cocky, and I got knocked on my ass pretty fast. Because like, even though I already work from home, working in a pandemic is completely different. For as much of a homebody as I thought I was.
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah, but like, I still went to dinner with my friends, or I still like hang out with you, and we go to coffee and go to bungalow and shit like that, and grab
that too. It's been
like I still kick it with my friends. And so that part was weird. I also think too, like, COVID didn't stop everybody's lives from happening, right? So like, if you were still going through life stuff, like, I think that was the part that was hard to balance for me, that knocked me on my butt, was like life stuff. It was like, okay, I mean, I've been working hard for 13 years. Like, of course, no matter what you throw me in, Tiffany is going to figure out how to work and make some money, right? But like personal life stuff, I worked through some really hard stuff in this season, and made some hard decisions and, you know, stuff like that. And in this season, during the pandemic, like, that has been hard. Like, I've had maybe 2 depressions so far, and like both of them were harder than others because, I don't know, at least for me, my experience with like anxiety and depression and stuff, right, is always like I feel trapped in my experience. Like, I feel trapped in my head, right? So usually what you do is you like switch up your routine, you put some clothes on, go outside, take a walk. But now it feels like the Truman Show.
Yep.
I was telling my therapist
the other day. First couple of weeks, it felt a lot like that.
Going into a store and having to like, you know, do that like social distance line to even get into the store, and then they let certain amount of people. First of all, we were in Target for like 2 hours, like walking around that bitch like it was Disneyland.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just, and it's so crazy.
You're like, Joanna Gaines.
We were like, I was like, oh my God, foil. Oh my God, tampons. They're so amazing. You know what I mean? It was like being at the zoo. You're like, whoa. And I mean, I literally gave a summer shop in Target. Yeah. And I just thought like me and Bridget were like in the pajama section making it rain. And I just thought, God, life is so strange right now. Like, but I feel like the low times, though they sucked, I haven't had too many of them. In this season, I had just come out of like my own pandemic, if you will, like a few months before, because I had that accident. And so when I had my accident, I wasn't able to work for 2 months, I think. And I mean, I almost lost everything, like not being able to work, like, and going through what everyone's going through right now, minus I didn't have a stimulus check or whatever. Thank God I had some homies. I had a friend that really like looked out for me and helped me in that season. But like in that season, it really taught me what my mom has been trying to teach me my whole damn life, which is like, but what you gonna do when there's a rainy day? And then like it poured and I was like, ah, and it just washed. I felt like everything was supposed to get washed away. So I feel like,
so I know what happened to you. Like, I know what that rainy day was and what it kind of turned into trickle effect wise. But for everybody listening, if you feel comfortable, what was that moment for you? Like, what was that real turning moment for you? What was that experience that you had?
So I had an accident. I'm like trying to figure out a way to talk because I can't talk about all of it because of like legal shit. But
Of course, yeah. Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. So I was on the set of something and I fell and it was life-threatening, very scary. And I broke one of my ribs and I fractured one of my ribs on the right side, and then I have like a small bulge in my disc. And for me, like it was twofold. So like, I mean, I've dealt with like a lot of stuff with my mental health, and around that time, I was suicidal around that time. And so like, it was really kind of low-key poetic, if you will, because it was like around that time, I was exhausted with life because life was like just so many things were coming at me at one time, like with my family and my own stuff. And I was like really worried about my mom. She wasn't well. It was just like thing after thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. And then boom, this accident happened. I almost lose my life. And then after I had the experience of like, oh, like if it's your time, it's your time. Right. Like it gave me a whole new perspective on my mortality, gave me the opportunity to look at my own mortality in the face. And I think that because suicidal thoughts is something that I have struggled with in the past, and I mean, to something I still struggle with to this day and I fight through. But I think it gave me a different perspective on life. Like I never knew how much I wanted to live until I saw the moment where it could have really been the end. You know what I mean? It was like, that slow motion, like, nah, like it was literally that, like, oh, you know what I mean? It was like, oh shit. Like, I'm very big on like now when it comes to accidents, like everybody gets so worked up about accidents, right? Like, when someone dies, and this is going way left and kind of morbid, but just to give people perspective.
Yeah.
You know how like when someone dies, people immortalize their last everything. So the last thing they said, the last things that were in their house, all that stuff, right? And so like, I didn't die. Right. And then I remember when I got home, when it was all over, and I was just like, before I even realized what the process of healing, the journey I was about to have to be on for my body to heal, I just remember like laying in the bed, like, oh shit, that happened. And I remember when I came in my house, I was looking around and I was thinking, man, like everybody who loved me would have read so deep into so much shit that's going on in here that's not deep at all. Like I looked at the last thing I posted on Instagram and I just thought everyone who loves me would have been like, this is what she said. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it gave me so much perspective on life. It's just like, we make everything so deep because we have such a profound desire to understand. But like life being given, life being taken is so above us. And I think that situation really armed me with the strength to go through the pandemic now with courage. Cause like, I mean, I've already almost died. So my thing was like, if I just didn't die in August, my accident was in August. If I didn't die from that, I ain't about to die from no damn COVID. That's just, and so because of that, I just claimed that. Like, and so it just showed me the shit that's important. Like, which is a shame. It's a shame that it takes you almost dying for you to realize like, oh.
And I think a lot of people think that it's an immediate switch, that if a near-death experience happens to you, you have like a brush with death. I think people assume like you have this new lease on life and everything changes. But I think similar to what you said earlier with COVID, life doesn't stop. You had a near-death experience, but the same people were needing their files and needing you to finish it and needing you to pay your rent on time. And that stuff doesn't, people don't slow down and they don't stop. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are experiencing during this pandemic is it's just like you're inundated with still needing to provide things that you were able to provide maybe a little bit easier, or you were stressed to provide before the pandemic. And all of a sudden you're feeling this stress to do that in these like really confusing time, this brand new kind of atmosphere that you're in, and it gets really confusing. And I know for you, like being out for 2 months after falling, like people still wanted stuff from you. People still needed you to show up, and you're like, I'm literally bedridden. Kind of
I
get
can't
over
walk.
that.
I can't
How are you supposed to
breathe.
record?
Yeah. I remember like there were moments when like healing is such a trip. So first of all, I've never broken a bone before that. So
Same.
I had no real experience with like the process of really the body healing from something as severe as what I went through, right? So I remember there was like a point where like everything didn't hurt as bad anymore. And I remember being like, I'm better. And Bridget was like, I don't think that you should try that out though. Like, I just think like, if you feel better, like you should just enjoy that today you feel good. And I remember being like, feeling like, okay, I feel better. So maybe I can do more now. And Mirror, she was just like, as soon as you get some relief, look at you, you can't even, and as soon as I tried, you should have seen me at the computer my neck was like, oh, really? That's what we doing? Watch this. Cue my neck was like instantly. I mean, the process of like your body healing, scar tissue, all that shit. Like I feel like my muscles to this day are still like, it's like fight or flight. Like your muscles are just like,
you move quickly in one direction. They're like, what are we doing?
The human body is incredible. That's the other thing that I'm enjoying about the pandemic, though. The human body is incredible. The human psyche is incredible. And like to see everybody getting back to the things that matter, which connecting, being outside. Like I have never seen so many children riding bicycles with their parent, like just like people outside, like, like I said earlier, rollerblading by my homegirl's house and being like, Nelly, come outside. Like, I feel like I'm in a fucking 90s.
You haven't done that since you were a kid, since it was the 90s.
A child, yes. And so it's nice to be back in a place where those things are important to us again. Like, when I sit on my balcony, I'll be seeing people like, everybody like hanging out by a car and people just kind of like socially distanced in the street, but just like talking shit and like laughing and whatever, and like that part is really nice to see.
How's your family doing during this time?
They just moved. When did they move into that house? It hasn't been a year yet. Definitely hasn't been a year. But yeah, they just moved. And I'm worried for the bowling alley though. Like I'm worried from what does that look like?
Right.
Like, how could you bowl and socially distance? Like, me and my dad have been talking about it. It's like, when you go to a bowling alley, you put your hand in a rented ball, you put your foot in a rented shoe.
Crazy.
You play in an arcade that everyone's touching stuff.
Yep.
Like, I just don't see, I don't know. Like,
yeah, so even if the business can survive not being open this long, it's kind of the idea of once it does open up, how are you going to get people to come in and feel confident about bowling and about using the arcade? And I think a lot of businesses are like that. I'm scared to go to a restaurant, to go to a bar, to go to a shopping center, to do
to sit, right? Like I could not imagine sitting at a restaurant.
And one of my favorite coffee shops actually opened up, and I still have not went to even get a takeaway coffee because I don't know if I could walk in a place and actually get a coffee and walk out without like wiping it all down. And that's like this whole other.
I'd love to sit at Joey's at the bar and order that Korean cauliflower with the kimchi over rice with a nice red blend, and it makes me nervous that everyone's going back outside because it just seems like they're prioritizing the economy over people's lives. And I know that like standing still forever isn't a real option either, but like my mom has an autoimmune disease.
That's right.
And so COVID-19 is really dangerous for someone like my mom.
Yep.
And so to me, it's really scary. Luckily mom she takes it seriously, and our entire family is making sure that she's safe and like
Good.
my brother or sister will go to the store for her and like all of that stuff. Like she's like being social with the family ish, but like she's being really particular, of course, because this is something
Good.
that can really hurt her.
Yeah.
My dad as well, honestly. My dad's a smoker. It's like, I know he doesn't, I argued with him about it. I was like, Dad, I just really don't think that you want this smoke with COVID-19. Like, I just don't think that you would
Not for
win.
you.
Like, I
Yeah.
love you. Yeah, like I love you, but like a common cold sits you down, sir. Like, I don't think the way your lungs are set up and because of the way that you decided to do things, I don't know if this is for
Right.
you. So I have two parents who are high risk. And then also one of my neighbor that I grew up with, her name is Miss Adrian. She just got it. She has had COVID. She works.
Wow.
Yeah, she does like admin work at a nursing home. And she said out of 129 residents, 118 have COVID-19. Out of 118, 30 people have already died.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so she said she got it so she said she had to go speak to, like, us, one of the residents to ask him whatever. And so she went down to his room and she said that his roommate just had it or something. And she was like, I noticed that like the room wasn't cleaned up and whatever. And then she said she walked out and one of the nurses was like, what are you doing down here? Like, you need to go. Like, almost the whole floor is sick. Like, everyone has it, and just from walking through the halls, she got it. She was sick for 2 weeks. Wow. And she had to go back to work. They made her go back to work.
These are the stories that people need to hear. They need to hear the honest stories about
like what's happening.
Exactly, because I feel like the news is, and this is for the left and the right, they are just not telling the stories. They're all fighting constantly. This has all become about Trump, and I know Trump loves that, but this is the left and the right's fault for constantly making this about what Trump said and didn't say and what he's doing and not doing in the upcoming election and, their views on him instead of talking and highlighting these real stories. Because I think, we've dove really deep to inform ourselves to, everything we hear keeps changing day to day, sometimes hour to hour. And so I'm like, let me see, there's documentaries, there's, tons of stuff on YouTube, everything that you can watch even from China or, what's going on in Korea or Italy. And so you can inform yourself. And it's just so unfortunate that we're not showcasing these same stories. The story that you just talked about, it's like, I've never heard that before. All I'm hearing is
118.
That's insane.
Out of 129. Yeah. When she told me that, I was just like, well, did they give you guys like gear? Like, and she was just like, like when she goes back to work now, she's going to have on goggles and a face mask. And she works in the office. Like, to me, I felt so frustrated because I was like, man, like these are the moments where I just like wish that I had like a shit ton of money so that I could just be like, here, like just, and then like even with like people who like need to sell their homes, like now, like even with the businesses, like, when I talked to my parents about the bowling alley, like, I was telling my sister, I was like, I just pray that if it gets to a place where they needed to get rid of it, they would. But my mom was like, who the fuck's going to buy it?
Who's going to buy it? That's right. Yep.
Because there's just and then if you do sell it, you're going to get it for way less than what it's worth. Because right now the people with money are the ones who win. Like, this is just the moment where like, I don't know, like, and I felt so frustrated even saying like, I mean, maybe the city, and I'm sure the city will buy it, but it's just like, fuck, it's like, not to make this about race, but this is why we don't got shit. It's so hard to make a life for yourself. And it's just so frustrating to be in a place where it's not equally important to everyone. It's like, everyone's like fending for themselves, and like people are trying to hold on to what they built. Like, to talk to my mom and to listen to her be like, we were going to retire off that. Like, it's just like, wait, to like think like you work your whole life and you do all of these things and you invest your money and you do all of that stuff. It's like, that was a big deal. My parents
Of
bought the bowling
course.
alley that I grew up watching them bowling when I was a kid. Like,
Yep.
they bowled there their whole life. My mom grew up bowling there when she was a kid, and she recreated the program. Actually, it's called Jimmy's Juniors, and she
Awesome.
recreated the bowling program that she grew up bowling in when she was a kid. So it's like, it was a really big deal for our family. So to see, to not know, rather, I guess, what the future is for it is scary. I know that we're more than what we do, but like, could you imagine if someone that just like took like one of your favorite things from you?
Right. Well, and we are more than what we do, but so much of who we are is in what we do. And I think people forget that. It's like there's such rich experiences and memories. I mean, you've talked about a couple of them, but think of the memories too that your parents have from that bowling alley, your mom bowling there since she's young. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
about what she does, it's about her experiences and her life and her memories and the lives that they've touched. All of these small businesses, they have so many rich memories in them that a lot of people, it's why losing so many of these restaurants or, all of these things that people have worked their whole lives to create, all of a sudden there's no foundation there.
No, and
It's
there's no
really scary.
support for it either. It's just
Mm-mm.
like they only care about cash cows, right? So it's not like there's, it's just big corporate bailouts. It's not
Yep.
like for as awesome as it is that there's like grants and loans and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, everyone needs it. So there's not enough. Do you know that the insurance company is not paying anyone else out because too many people are filing? The insurance company didn't have enough money. They don't have enough money to give everyone. So for everyone who's been paying these insurance, like I mean, it's a fucking bowling alley. I can't even imagine how much it costs for that insurance.
Right.
It's just like, to think that you pay for something and then you finally get to a place where you need it. And they're like, and it's like, you can't even really be mad at them because they're a business too. So it's
Right.
like, if they ain't got it, it's like just a domino effect of, if you don't got it, then you don't got it. And I agree. I definitely think that they're not talking about these kind of things enough. I think like how this is affecting the average American middle class, like school. One of my girlfriends from back home, she's a principal, and I mean, she's been driving door to door to check on her kids because, like, some of her kids are at risk, and some of the kids' parents are addicts, recovering addicts, all
Yep.
kind of stuff. And so, like, school was the only place that was really safe for these kids. It was the
Yep.
place where these kids got fed, and like people were there that really loved them and took
Yep.
care of them and honored them. And so
Hmm.
now my girlfriend's a principal, right? So she's like, I'm just thinking about all my kids that were always in my office all the time because they're in trouble, because usually those kids were the ones that have at home problems.
Of course.
And so, like, what they're doing with like doing school online is dope. But like, she was telling me about how, like, so all the kids have iPads and they're teaching online, but like some of the parents don't have internet. So
Yep.
there's kids who like haven't logged on to school since the beginning of the pandemic and that they can't even find, like,
Yep.
so it's just like, I think it's classic America. Like, if you got it, you are it. If you live in a good school district, if you
Yep.
live in a safe neighborhood, if you've saved your money, I mean, the average American has $400 saved. We've been in a pandemic for 2 months.
Yep.
What the fuck is anybody going to do with $400 for 2 months? For the people who haven't received those stimulus checks yet, they said, I
Yeah.
saw something that said over 10 million people haven't received it yet. So it's
Yeah.
just like, like, if the average American has $400 saved and 10 million people haven't received their stimulus check, how are they eating? Because all of the like pantries and stuff like that that they have, like, there's only a limited amount of resources. Like, it's not like there's an endless amount of donated food and funding for all of this stuff. So like, I don't know, it's just like what's happening in the nooks and crannies. Like, another friend of mine, she works at the high school that we went to. And she told me that, like, I grew up in, like, the high school that I graduated from is called Williamstown High School in South Jersey. And it's in the suburbs, nice area, great school. And she told me over 70 of the kids are homeless. And I just thought,
Wow.
in Williamstown? You know what I mean? Like, how you just like
Mhm.
think of and she was talking to me about like parents who've like stayed in hotels just to get the kids in that school district because it was a better school. And so they, like, so like she was telling me about like some kids who were staying at this motel called, what was this shit? I can't even remember what it's called. But like, and she told me, and I was like, are you talking about on the Pike by the Walgreens? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, what? Like just reimagine, like thinking about the narrative. And I'm just like, wait. So it's like, even if it's like, I know that like the number 70 is not 70 million, but like it's still 70 children.
Yeah, that should be zero.
And that's the part that's really fucking with me in this season. It's just like I'm overwhelmed with a million ideas, but just not feeling like I have the capacity to help nearly as many people as I wish I could help. You know what I mean? Like I ran a contest. I did 2 of them and the prize was $100. And like, I just like, when I was like picking the name out of the thing, I just wanted to send everybody's name in their $100. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's just, I'm like, in a season like this, it's just like,
yeah, it can feel really hopeless. It can feel like you just can't do enough. My hope is that, all of us are doing it in whatever capacity we can, and that I believe that most people are good. I think you watched, I saw on your Instagram, we watched it 2 nights ago, the Michelle Obama Becoming documentary.
I watched it last night.
And that gave me so much hope when she did the book tour, and kind of what she learned from it was that, how many good people are out there. And I think that was something that about a year ago, I think with everything I was kind of trying to heal from and stuff, I kind of got to this just mind shift where I was like, most people are good. Most people are, because I think both you and I were not always in that headspace, having gone through life and the music industry and, the ups and downs. And we've definitely both sat across from each other in tears talking about it, but getting to a place where I agree with her. I think most people are good, and I think most people are doing good during this time. I think that's why so many people have been able to stay afloat, or at least feed themselves for another day. It's not because of the government stimulus checks, it's because of their neighbor. And I think, we came home. It's true. I think we see it, and I think just the kindness in strangers gives you a little bit of hope. And I think it's important, these walking around the neighborhoods and giving what money you can to people, running little contests. There's millions of people doing the same thing, and it is helping other people. I think we can't depend on our government. Not to say that everyone in there is bad and corrupt or intentionally trying to hurt people. I think there are some people that are, but I think we just got to keep doing good and right by the people in our circles, and hopefully eventually all those circles will kind of touch and
just
everybody will be
like,
taken care of. Yeah, because communities have always taken care of each other, and I just hope that, yes, globally we are one large community, but it takes kind of these micro acts of kindness that are going to eventually grow out, and become macro. So did you love the documentary? I wept through the entire thing.
I mean, like
she's the best.
Like, seeing stuff like that is like, those are the things that really make me proud to be a woman, and proud to be Black. I looked at her and just, I felt so much permission.
Oh, beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just am like, wow, like she just, from fashion to like what she, like when they showed her stylist, I was like, exactly. It just made me think of me and you. Like, I just was like, that will be us. That is us already. Right? Where it's just like, hey, like when she had all of the like, drawings on the wall, and like the things that they put her in, and when they showed that sparkly boot,
amazing.
I just, she just challenges so many things that gracefully, like, I cannot imagine what it could have been like to be called an angry Black woman and have so much class and not become angry, because it's unfortunate, but she showed me, because I've been called an angry Black woman a million times. And she just showed me as a woman reminded me rather, because we watched her do it for 8 years, but that documentary reminded me like what being a lady really means. Like, she's such a fucking lady, and she stands so strong in her confidence. I love that, like, it doesn't come off boastful. Like, when that's something I've always struggled with in my career, like, is like owning all that I am without feeling ashamed of it. I know, which sounds kind of weird, but I'm sure you can understand. Like, it's just like,
I get that.
Like, I feel like when you really own all of who you are, you almost feel, or at least for me, I feel like who do you think you are feeling?
Right. Well, that's
It's
because, I mean,
like,
there's probably been times that you've been confident or you've been assertive or you've been strong in your opinion, and that's what's said to you. It's like, "Who do you think you are?" And then there are other times where if you're maybe not as confident or coming across as confident, it's like, no one's gonna believe in you unless you believe in yourself. You're like, "Well, which one do you want me to be? Would you like
who do
me
you want me to be?
would you like me to be confident or would you like me to be humble?
Yeah.
Like, which one would you like?" And I like that she is confident as well. I think that she went through there was a lot of resistance, but she
Hmm.
really rose to the occasion. She did it with class. And I think even when she was talking about that time where she was starting to be kind of painted as this, angry black woman, and then she had to kind of stop speaking off the cuff, I think is what she said. And she kind of had to start speaking from a teleprompter and stuff in a way that was silencing her. And that was really frustrating. But I think here she is with this tour and this book, and she's not silenced any longer. And I think, and definitely not reading from a teleprompter. This is her story, and she was able to tell it. And I think that was the kind of when they go low, you go high idea is like,
Hmm.
I'm going to wait my turn. I'm going to do
Right.
my
She
job
saw
and
the
I'm going
bigger
to talk about it.
picture.
She did. She's a bigger
She did.
picture
She saw,
person.
but I think that's what I took from it, because I think a lot of times, like, I mean, naturally, I've been an impulsive person my entire life. Like, from
Right.
the time I was a child, I just knew that I was armed with a choice. Right. I love the idea of, like, I mean, no matter what you do, no
Yeah.
matter who you are,
Yeah.
me doing this is up to me. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that she beautifully showed us waiting your turn. Like, even when she talked about, like, when she decided to stay home and raise her kids, like, I mean, she's a fucking scholar,
Right.
badass,
Mhm.
and to be able to make those sacrifices for the greater good of her family and the vision for who they were as a family. You know what I mean? Like, she
Yeah.
saw who her husband was becoming, and two, she was such a big part of it. And I think,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? And I love their love. Like, I love how much he empowers her. And it's like the part when, do you remember when he came out on stage and he was like, "This is like when Jay-Z comes out at the
Yep.
Beyonce concert." And and
I
I just
loved it.
thought, I just thought, like, the way that she looks at her is like, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, the way that, like, he's just a saw to her, and they are just so, like, it was like it just showed, like, him supporting her.
Yeah.
Like, he's been running the show for a long time, but now,
Yeah.
he gonna ride her coattail a little bit, and it's about her now,
Right. Yeah.
and I thought it was beautiful for him to be able to acknowledge like that. Yeah, man, I definitely watched that and just was really sad that they weren't still in the White House. I just thought, God, this
Me
would
too.
be so
It actually
different.
seemed, and it wasn't that long ago, but I actually, when we were watching it, I was like, wow, it actually seems because of today's climate and obviously with like the Ahmaud Arbery stuff happening this week, having been watching that so closely, the heartbreak surrounding that, and then watching this documentary, I was like, and it being kind of Trump's America, it almost felt like watching a movie. It almost felt like I was like, wow, it's actually
Like, it
hard to
didn't
believe,
happen.
yeah, that this America let a black man be a president, let a black family in the White House for 8 years. And I say let because that's how it feels now.
Well, and that's what
It
it was.
feels,
Like,
which
let's be
is,
clear.
and
Unfortunate, but it's like, let's call it what it is. It's a white world.
well, yeah, exactly. I mean,
It's a white country.
I'm definitely not denying that. It's watching now, I was just like, wow, like with today's climate and everything that's going on and people's denial and white privilege and everything, I'm like, I can't believe that this actually even happened.
I
Watching this
know.
back, especially the first 4 years, I was like, this feels crazy. I think right now the job is to make sure that it doesn't fade into history,
Right.
that it wasn't just a,
Right.
a blip where
Yeah.
white presidents and leaders, and then we had 8 years, and then it was just all white again.
And
And
then look how far it went when it went from going from that to Trump. Like,
oh my
when she
gosh,
was when she talked about how she wept when they got on Air Force One, I know that, like, whether that, in my heart, I just want to believe that that's why she
of
wept.
course, yep,
Like, she was just like, "Oh my God, we're handing the country over to him.
yep.
We've got to do something about it, though, man."
I
Like, it's
know,
just like, It's about to be November. We need to vote. We need to change this.
Yep.
We have the power to change this. We ain't doing nothing else. We are surviving.
That's right.
And we are in the house.
Yep.
So, like, it's just like, make it your business.
Yep.
And look at the climate. It's like, for the people who are like, I've talked to so many people that are like, no one's going to vote. And I'm like, why? Or enough? Like, do you not see the same shit I see? Or
a lot of people don't. I'm blown away, but then I see things like, these pictures of these, these riots going on of screaming in cops' faces because people want to get back out and do what they want to do. They want to take their beaches back. When they loosen the restrictions, which, mind you, they're doing this a week or two before they were already implementing for those kind of things with social distancing to be going on. You can't wait 2 more weeks to go out and walk up and down Huntington Beach Pier. You can't wait 2 more weeks. Go walk around your neighborhood. Go look at the beach from your car. And those are the people that don't get it. And it's like, we have an opportunity to change the trajectory of this country and ultimately, I think, the world when it comes to November. And people do need to get out and vote. I have a lot of friends. I've had a lot of conversations with people before this pandemic happened, of people that I'm so surprised they don't vote because they think there's no point.
Well, do you know what Imani said to me yesterday? She said, not voting is a vote for Trump.
I agree 100%.
That's how you look at it. It's like, literally, if you don't vote, you're voting for Trump. That is what that means.
Because the people voting for Trump are going to vote for Trump. So if
they're voting for him. They're coming out.
Yeah.
And 2, now we know he can win. We've already watched it.
Yeah.
It's happened. We haven't come out and vote because like like the last election where it was like, I don't want to vote for Hillary or Trump, so I'm just not going to vote. It's like I'm not big on politics. I'm the last person to tell you what's policy is this with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I do know is that these are the 2 people that are running up against each other that have the fucking odds to win. Mm-hmm. So we need to choose one of them.
I was watching an interview with Meghan McCain, and she's always been a Republican. And, she has her views, and I respect people's views. But she, at the end of the day, I think she's voting for Joe Biden for the first time in her life. She's voting Democratic. And I want to hope that there are people. She's like, I can't.
Because he's the better candidate. And that's what it comes down to. I don't even think that it's who was it? What's the governor of New York?
Cuomo.
His name?
Yeah,
Cuomo, there you go. He said something in the beginning when this all first happened, and he called Trump out, and he said something like, look, this is not, a red or blue thing. This is a red, white, and blue thing. Like, this is our life. This is our country. It's not about politics. Yep. Like I said before, I'm not into politics, so I don't really know much about a lot of it, but I do trust my discernment. I do trust my gut. And I also trust what I see, and what we've seen so far from this dude is that it's not working. And as a Black woman, he doesn't value my life. As a woman, he doesn't value my life. He doesn't value my family's life. He doesn't value my legacy. He doesn't value what I've built. And so to me, that's not my guy then. I don't understand how any woman could vote for him. I mean, he doesn't respect us.
Nope.
Like, bare minimum, he has no respect for you.
Nope.
He has no respect for your daughter. He has no respect for your mother, your grandma, your auntie, your wife, your best friend. Like, he doesn't respect women.
No.
He doesn't respect women. Yeah. He doesn't respect any other race that's not his own. Like, this isn't even at this point now, I mean, he demonizes brown people, not just Black people, brown people. Yep. So now the enemy is Hispanic, it's Mexican people.
Yep.
Like, the way that they like to see how, or even like when the pandemic first started, and like listening to, like, I remember I was in the grocery store, me and Bridget did like when it all first started. Remember when like the toilet paper was flying off the shelves? It was like then, right?
Yeah.
In March. And so we went and we did this big grocery shop and spent all this money. And the cashier was talking about Chinese people eating bats, right? And he was like, those fucking, whatever, just got everybody. And I just am thinking like, and like there's other people in line and everyone's just kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? And like, remember when he called it Chinese virus? Do you remember that? Me and Dalen were talking about that whenever I was just like,
oh my God.
I was like, this is how racism started. Like, that was the birth of like I talked to like some of my friends who are Asian, right? Like, and like one of them posted something about how like she was like afraid. Like people
course.
were treating her crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part that's hard that most people, human beings, have a hard time wrapping their mind around is like breaking down the concept of racism, right? Like racism is a result of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is a result of not knowing. That's
Right.
all it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is, right? So it's like, okay, I can acknowledge your fear of not knowing. That is a common reaction for most animals, not just humans. If you do
Right.
something in front of a dog and he don't know what you're going to do, he's going to react, right? So fine, like let's normalize the concept of like fear for a second. All right, cool. Let's acknowledge that you're unsure about this. That's fine. That's fine that you're unsure. All right, well, let's now deal with your uncertainty. Let's start to really unpack this shit. It's like with what just recently happened, kids running down the street. I remember there was this one time when I don't even know how old I was, but I was already living in LA. I was home visiting. I was back home. Me, my sister, my cousin, and one of my neighbors, we was all kicking it in the gazebo in the backyard. And I remember it was 2:00 in the morning. This guy walking, he had a hood on his head, and he started walking into our backyard, right? And we were just kind of like, classic not knowing, right? There it is. So the moment where you're like, oh shit, I'm not mad at you for feeling unsure. Like that's not fucked up. I think that that's where we get it fucked up. No, it's not. You're allowed to feel how you want to feel. The way you react is up to you, right? So it's like, all right, so now I'm like, oh shit, turns out he was just trying to sneak in some girl's like backyard, and but it's just like that moment of like, I remember feeling that fear, right? And just surrounding like, it's like media has a big part to do with what trains our mind to feel that, right? So like you associate darkness, the color black, a hoodie, baggy pants, and you put that in any neighborhood. Most people are like, especially neighborhoods that like, where I grew up in the burbs, right? So people ain't walking around at 2:00 in the morning, walking through your backyard with a hoodie on, doing whatever. And so my dad was like, what the fuck? Who is that? You know what I mean? And granted, no one got shot or no crazy shit. I feel like they be going left with that shit. But I think that like, it's okay to feel fear. It's how you act. You don't got to kill nobody. What happened to fighting? Like what happened to like with the situation with Ahmad, it was two of y'all. Like even if you were afraid, like this is my beef with the cops. Because by the way, I don't buy the fear thing. I just really think that you're not afraid.
He was running in broad daylight. And also we live in a country that tells white people they can go tell a black man to stop running. That's the problem with this story. Why do you think you can go get in a truck and demand a black man to stop running? Stop for us. And you can get in his face with a gun and he's not going to push you off of him and defend his life.
That is why I don't buy fear, though. That's why I don't buy fear with what these people say,
sure
right?
He was pretty.
You have nothing to be afraid. Well, and you have nothing to be afraid of. This has always been your town.
Exactly.
This has always been your town. This is when you are born either white or when you look white. If you are anyone who can tap into white. Yes, if you are white presenting, if you are able to tap into white privilege, you were born with like this blanket of things that you're able to tap into that everyone else is not able to tap into. So I don't buy you being afraid because you don't have anything to be afraid of. You're running in your town. You can call the police. They're not going to shoot you. Like literally the other day, I was sitting on my balcony and I heard this couple arguing and I looked down and there was this girl and this guy, and this girl, she was cussing her man out. She, all in it. You need to fucking get your shit together. Because she's going in, right? I'm just like, damn, girl, tell them. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they got all this shit and it's, but my first thought, as awful as this is, but this is what it's like to be Black. My first thought was, I wanted to be like, girl, take that shit in the house. Someone's going to call the police on y'all out here arguing and yelling and whatever. And, someone's going to mistake him raising his voice like any other human for, oh God, is he gonna, and it's a shame that like, if they were a white couple standing outside arguing, they would just be a couple arguing. And in the white world, the police would drive by and the police would give them a shot, you would be able to plead your case. You would be able to tell your story.
Yep.
And like in this world, though, there's no such thing as that. It's just like, you know, you're taught when you're a young Black man to just like, if you get pulled over, put your hands on the wheel and do this. And what I don't understand is how they were able to kill this dude. They like dealt with like, so the police came and no one was arrested. Like, so what happened when his body was in the street? Because I didn't watch the video. I cannot bring myself to watch that shit, right? But like,
and you shouldn't have
so
to watch the video.
So when the police got there, when the ambulance got there, when they took his body to the morgue, there was no one that processed that scene that wasn't like, we're processing this as a crime scene. How did y'all process that? On the paperwork, what was his death ruled as? That wasn't ruled as a homicide? What was it ruled as?
So there's 2 county commissioners that came forward saying that they actually tried to prosecute these gentlemen when they were arrested. Mind you, there was actually 3 of them. One of them was their friend. I don't know if he was driving the truck or not, but they've only arrested 2 of the 3. But the district attorney, which is Jackie Johnson, which there's a petition going around to get her disbarred and removed from office. She knew Gregory McMichael, which was the dad, I believe. And so
how he got off.
She blocked the arrest from happening. You know, it had been over 70 days that this happened. This happened in February on the 23rd. So,
but that right there is what I mean, though. When you were born white, you're born 100%. Into a blanket of protect. Because the thing is the infrastructure is already built. Like he already knew her. She was already in the system. It's just like when you tap into your network, if we don't have the same network that is in every system like that, where you know, my kid was, you know, he fucked up, but you know, we're gonna give him another shot because kids be fucking up. No, if that was somebody's Black son, his ass is going to jail. We're not giving. That's why I like that show. Did you watch that show Little Fires Everywhere? Let me tell you something. That show will set you on fire, especially in this season. I think it's a good. Yeah, I know.
I'm already so angry.
But you know what though? I think that show does a very good job at calling it like all the way out. Like they just do such a good job at like calling out like just the burbs, perfection, struggle, perception, like people's assumption. Or like I remember when I first moved to my place downtown, like, you know, I lived on the penthouse floor and it was a vibe. And I remember maybe day 1 or day 2 when I was moving in, I got on the elevator. There was like this older white couple on the elevator and they had pushed PH2. And then one of them was like, hey, what floor? Like, cause you know, you just, whoever's by the buttons usually just pushes everybody's buttons. And I was like, oh, it's PH2. And they both looked at me like, what? You know what I mean? And they were like, you live here? And I was like, yeah, I just moved in. And he was like, to PH2? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, by yourself? And I was like, yeah. Like, and I just remember, like, as they're asking me these questions, I'm just sitting here thinking, wait, like, why are you trying to make me feel like I'm not allowed to be here?
Yep.
Like,
and act surprised. Why are you surprised?
It's a miracle that my parents raised me right, and I can provide for myself and live here too. And I remember one of my favorite things about living there was fucking everybody's head up like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely, I do live here, and I pay this rent by myself. How about that, neighbor? Nice to meet you. Hi, my name is Tiffany. PH 210. If you need a cup of sugar, holla at me. You know what I'm for real? Like it just and like, you know, no matter how much money you have, no matter what you accomplish in America as a Black person, that is the first, your Blackness walks in the room way before you get there. It just does. And so I just wish that there was a way to have a more honest conversation without everybody being defensive. Because the thing is like, everyone feels like they're not being heard and like we're not allowed to have different opinions. And that's just not true. I think one of the things that is the most beautiful thing about being an American is having the freedom to be who you want to be, even if who you are is an asshole, right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Like I can't tell you who to be, but I think that we can all agree that like at this point it's time to be able to like really round table this bitch and like talk about some real shit and like everybody get uncomfortable and we really talk about like what's really happening here and why that makes you uncomfortable. Do you feel uncomfortable when a black man drives through your neighborhood? Okay, tell me what you feel like. What do you think? But no one has the courage to be like, yeah, if he ran through my neighborhood, it would make me uncomfortable too. Like like there's no way to change it because everyone is like, I'm not a racist. Everyone's judgmental. My first racial experience was when I was maybe 7 or 8, when we moved from Philly to Jersey. We moved from North Philadelphia to this place called Sicklerville in Jersey. And my parents built their first house with a townhouse. And there were these twin girls that live across the street. Their names are Lauren and Nicole. And my mom was like, she told me and my sister, she's like, yo, you know, why don't you guys go see if they want to play? So we were like, all right. So we go across the street, ask Lauren and Nicole if they want to play. And they told us that they couldn't play with us because they can't play with black people, right? And so we were like, okay. You know what I mean? So then, like, I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, okay, well, and I have a sister. So I'm like, cool, we'll just go play, whatever. And so we were like, bye. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you don't know. When you're a child, you have no idea. And so when we walked back in the house, my mom was like, what happened? And we were like, oh, you know, they can't play with black people. And like, that was like my first real, like, okay, like, my mom was like, what? And she marched over there. She talked to their mom. And then my mom and her ended up becoming friends because they were able to have a real conversation.
Right.
They were able to be like, damn, that was fucked up. You know, their mom and great family, Italian, both from Philly, you know, and it's just like, you know, in the burbs where we lived at, it was an all white neighborhood.
Right.
So like, a young black family moving into the area, they assumed that the grass wasn't going to be cut and my dad was going to be a drug dealer because he drove a nice car. And and we proved all of those things to be not true. You know, my dad's a computer network engineer. My mom's an accountant. You know, we're good kids, whatever. But like, I think when you're the first to do anything, whether it's black or any other race, there's always some... You know, when someone new moves into the neighborhood, everyone's like, who's that? Mm-hmm. And when you're in a neighborhood, I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes. Like now what they said to us as children was trash, right? Yeah. But I'm just trying to think of the concept of it being like, okay, well, all of my neighbors are all Italian or Irish or whatever. And, you know, we speak our language and we make our food and we do this. And, you know, this is how things are. It's just like if there's a black neighborhood and... I don't know, a white family moved in. It would be odd, right? So I understand that concept of it being like, this is odd. Like I remember in my last, when I lived in Williamstown, I remember seeing a Maserati drive through the neighborhood and it was odd because it was a BMW Mercedes neighborhood. Right. Class-wise. It was just like, right. That's odd. It's a purple Maserati. I've never seen a Maserati before. So I understand the concept of, I've never seen this before. But I think that because the concept of recognizing difference and being fearful of it has been demonized, right. I think that people aren't able to have an honest conversation about it to get to the root of why, because it's all brainwashed. It's media. You don't know why you're racist, but the drug dealer in the movie was always black, and the guy with the baggy pants was the guy that was going to rob you. And I don't know why, but this is how it's been in books and in magazines and movies, and it's been forced down my throat. So whether or not you feel shame about the fact that it scares you, it does scare you, right? And if you can't be honest about the fact that scares you, we can't do anything about it. And I just feel like us being upset, it's not doing us any, and us being mad that people are scared of black people is not doing anything. It's just making, like, the people who are actually scared, it's just making them more scared, right? So it's like, that's not how you fix it. So it's like, you know, rage and anger. I understand. I am enraged and angry. Mm-hmm. Like, be clear. I have been affected by racism my entire life. Yep. Me being black has affected my career. I have had A&Rs box me in and make me feel like I could only be R&B because I was black. And my claim to fame, my biggest record is a pop song. I
Right.
made the most money I've made in my life off of a top 40 pop cut, you know? So
Right.
like that's bullshit, you know? So like be clear. I come from a place that is deeply affected every day by the fact that, you know, I'm a woman and I'm a woman of color. But I just don't see like, I mean, I fought over it before. I've punched someone in the face for saying racist shit to me before and it didn't do anything. So like I just feel like us fighting is like useless. I think what we did with on social media was beautiful. It worked.
Yep.
We used our
Yeah, it really
voices.
did. Yeah.
We came together and we got something done. And you know, friends in my life that are white who fucking get it and support it. Like it feels so like when I saw you post it, literally is something I thought when I saw you post it, I just thought, thank you.
Mm.
Because like unfortunately, this just is what it is. It's just like you receive things better from your own people, right?
Right.
It's like when you know, they're trying to get the black vote. You ain't sending a bunch of white people in there. You're gonna send some people that can speak our language, you
Yep.
know. And I think that like I think that every time a white person in America acknowledges that you speak your language to
Right.
them, like you're speaking to, you know what I mean? You're the like how they call it the bridge and stuff. It's
Yep.
just like, you know, I said something to one of my friends the other day about how like I'm just so frustrated with white people who aren't speaking up. It's just like, man, like I was talking to her about like how much the black man is so sought after in America, right? It's like they're the most demonized and also most sexualized. They're the most emulated. They're the most everything, right? And so
Yep.
it's like, love you a black man, but you won't educate your racist ass daddy on what he needs to be educated on so that your black son doesn't go through this eventually when you get pregnant one day. Like it's just like, you know, you love a black man, but when we start talking about black lives,
Mm-hmm.
motherfuckers go ghost. And so I think that like it's important to have that. And I mean I feel like we saw that happen though. Like
Yep.
you know, there were a lot of white people who were like, "What the fuck?" I saw that
Yeah.
one. I don't know who it was that posted and was just like, "If I told you this story about me, would you believe it?"
Wow.
Like I was running, and he showed himself like he's like out running, and he's just like, "I got shot by these two dudes," and I like, would that make sense to you? Like, and if it was flipped, if it was like a father and a son and they were black or they were Latino or they were Asian or they were
I
anything
mean,
else, come on. Like, that just doesn't even make any sense. It's
mm-hmm.
just like, it's just not the same. And I think that like privilege, there's like a level of guilt that comes with privilege that I just wish people would acknowledge. Like, I mean, I have privilege being light skinned. My whole life, I mean, growing up in the 90s, being light skinned in the 90s, it wasn't like there was a fuck ton of biracial kids yet. Like that wasn't being biracial in a predominantly black area where there weren't a lot of people who were mixed or like, you know, whatever. Like, I mean, my life, I was never black enough or white enough, right? So like the black girls that weren't mixed, like, 'cause, you know, I'm a biracial black woman, right? So the black girls who weren't mixed didn't like me, right? And I remember when I was a child being like, damn, what's their beef? But now as an adult, I understand they didn't like me because of my privilege. They didn't like me because the world treats me better. If I were to walk, I've experienced this a million times. I go to a restaurant and I'm with a friend who's brown skin or dark skin or whatever. I'm spoken to first.
Wow. Wow.
I'm spoken to first. I've been in situations where like I feel like I've told you this before. Remember that experience I had with that A&R at Capitol when she was trying to pitch me that rapper and
Yes.
he was white and she was like, I know he's white, you know, so it's kind of like, and I just was so uncomfortable because I just thought, I mean, white boys couldn't rap. Like, I don't know what.
Well, what she was trying to imply with the story, from what I remember, is she had actually said, hyped up this artist to you, and she had said like, and the songs are this, and he's a rapper, and then she goes, and he's white, kind of trying to imply like,
well,
oh, it's going to work better because he's
well, she said it's gonna work. She was like, but it's gonna work because he's white.
wow.
And I remember sitting in that meeting, like, I just was like, after she said that, I just like stopped talking. And I remember later on being so upset with myself for like not writing a letter to like the head of Capitol and not like making a bigger deal of it. But when I walked out of there, I got into an argument with my then manager about it. And like, I just told her, like, I just was like, that made me so uncomfortable. And like, there are just certain things that I'm not willing to budge on, right? Like, if I know you want some bullshit, like, he's not going to work because he's white. He's either going to work because he's dope or not, right? And I don't, but I feel like when it comes to being biracial, people don't know what I'm mixed with. So who knows? Her mama might be white. People talk to me like that. White people, I've been the token my whole life, right? So I'm the like one that like, you know, she's light skinned, so she's probably not ghetto or ratchet. Literally has been the energy around me, right? And so like, you know, the way that I've been spoken to and around in rooms, or even like Black men, like, you know, a lot of Black men that I've experienced, you know, have this thing about dark skin and brown skin women. And like, I've been in situations where like they've talked about it in front of me because I'm not brown skin or dark skin, as if I'm not a Black woman, or as if my girlfriends, some of them aren't brown skin or dark skin, as if my mother's not brown skin, your mother's not brown skin, your grandma's not brown, your sister's not brown, you know? And like, in retrospect, when I think about like the girls that didn't like me when I was a child back then, like, you know, I now understand. And I think that when it comes to privilege, and this is something that I love about you, is that you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I'm not, the thing is the shame you feel is not for yourself. It's for the people that came before you, right? Like, I have no shame about who I am. I didn't make any decisions on what I look like. I didn't make any decisions on how long my hair was going to be, or, you know, who my parents were going to be, or what I was born into, and whatever. Like, I just got here, right? So I feel no shame for that. You know, I feel empathy for the fact that there are things in my life that have come to me easier because of who I was born as, because I was born in the skin that I'm in, or because people, you know, feel like it's a little bit more acceptable. I'm the non-threatening Black girl. You know what I mean? I think that it's so important to acknowledge the privilege that you do have, if you have privilege, and like, and empathize with the people who don't. It's just, it's like there's a line in the show Little Fires Everywhere that I really want you to watch. And
I have to watch it.
Reese Witherspoon's character, she said something like, you know, we made good choices. And Kerry Washington's character was like, you had good choices.
Wow. Yep.
And that's the difference. Mm-hmm. It's your options. It's like when you're born into bullshit, you have to work hard no matter what race you are. When you're born into bullshit, you have to work a little bit harder to get out of the bullshit. You don't have the same opportunities. You don't have the same tools. You don't have the same support system. You don't have the same family or the same network. And so it's not the same.
No, and when people say things like everybody has their stuff, I'm like, yes, everybody has their stuff, but there are things that are more difficult. You know, I have my things, but I also walk around as a white man in this world. And so everything comes easier to me. I also have never been scared to go running in my life. I've never been, when I'm pulled over, especially if it's for some bullshit, I talk back so much. In the past I have. I think I understand now that I'm not going to even use that privilege, but because I already have the privilege of being white when they walk up to the window, I don't need to also abuse that privilege. And I think that's just something that I understood as I got older was, I have never been fearful because of the color of my skin. I've never been scared of being
How can I ask you a question? How long did it take for you to acknowledge the difference?
I think, well, I grew up in a place that was 100% white. So I think moving to LA, I very quickly understood just by having coworkers of different races. Going to Long Beach City College, I immediately made friends and had classmates that weren't now all of a sudden 100% white. And so it didn't take me long. What I will say is my whole life, I've never understood when I would hear people talk about other races in such a bad way. It always bothered me. And I think that's
Mm.
because my parents weren't like that. My mom didn't speak like that. My dad didn't speak like that. Yeah, but moving out here quickly, I was just like, okay, this is not right. Like, there's a world beyond, these white walls.
I've always wanted to know, like, I've just, like, there's been so many times that I just wish that I could be a fly on the wall and hear the
Right.
actual conversation. You know what I mean? Like, what's people really think? Like, what people
Right.
really, because I feel like when you're Black, it's so hard to not feel like people don't have an agenda
Right.
for you.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, as a creative, right? Like Black culture has always been, and probably always will be, at least in our lifetime, the most exploited culture ever in American culture, right? Yep. And so there have been a lot of times, especially specifically in my artist career, where like I've questioned, are you just fucking with me because I'm Black? You know what I'm saying? Which is such a shitty feeling where it's just like, damn, you feel like I remember when I first got out of my deal, like I had this thing with like wanting to have like a whole Black team, right? Like I was just like, my lawyer's going to be Black, my manager's going to be Black, my this is going to be Black, my that's going to be Black. And I just was just like fixated on my team being Black, specifically Black women, right? And, so I set out to hire this Black team and, whatever. And like, some of my team, like now, my whole team is not Black. Some of my team is Black. I mean, you're one of the most consistent people on my team, and you're definitely not Black. But like, I remember like feeling like, wanting that just strictly because it was just like, I'm not sure. I don't trust this. I don't trust this system. This system is not mine. Like,
which you have every right to not trust it.
It's and it's not created equal. Like a record contract for a Black artist is not the same as a record contract for a white artist. It just isn't.
Nope.
It just isn't. Like the budget is just not the same. The support is just not the same. You get put in this box and this bubble, and then when Black culture becomes cool again, which it's become cool again. So now it's like, the R&B wave and like the natural Black beauty vibes that have come back. Having a Black act right now is a win. And so I just, having to navigate the world and navigate throughout your career with those kind of thoughts in the back of your mind, as well as everything else that you have to deal with. I just feel like people don't understand. It's just like you have like a whole nother layer of stuff that you have to consider, like people are not just proud of me because of what I've done. They're proud of me because I've done all I've done and I'm Black. You get what I'm saying? That's why people are my family, my town, and it's just like, and while I'm proud of that, that's a fucking shame. You know what I mean? You should be proud of me because of what I've done, not because, it's like, oh my God, you did all of that and she's Black. It's like, God, like the life of a Black person trying to make it in America self-made is a hard one and it's a long one. And I just don't think that like we're going to get anywhere by not really being able to have this level of transparency.
Right.
As two friends, two different races, two different walks, two different experiences, so that we could go back and tell that, and you can plug into your community and your family and your people, and you can re-educate and maybe change some people's minds.
Yeah, I think it's the transparency is right. I think that's a really good way to put it. I think transparent conversation. I hope that, I know conversations like what we're having are taking place in a lot of homes and a lot of friendships. And I hope that that will start to spread. And I hope that people can really start to be honest with themselves about their privilege and honest with themselves about what's going on. And I think even back to your point about not watching the video, I had another friend post about not watching the video as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand if you're a Black person and you don't want to watch that video, because that is not the first time you've seen that. And I think it's very important. The people that need to watch it are white people. Black people don't need to watch another person be shot. White people need to watch.
And it's frustrating. And it's frustrating that that's what it takes. One of my favorites, Brene Brown. Do you follow her?
Yeah, love Brene.
Oh, okay. So, you know, one of Brene Brown's, one of the things that's like she lives by is that quote by Theodore Roosevelt, where it's just like, it's the people who get into the arena and dare greatly that can fucking talk about anything. If you're not in the arena, if you aren't willing to play, if you're not willing to get cut, if you're not willing to sweat, to bleed, if you're not in the game, that's what always has gotten on my nerves about sports, by the way. People who talk at the TV, who've never played football in their life, and tell a bunch of people what they should be doing. I'm like, oh, you would have ran that play better? Oh, you would have dunked that ball better? Okay, LeBron, fuck out of here. You ain't played a goddamn sport in your life.
That's how I feel about. That's how I feel about music.
I feel about our shit. Yeah, that's how I feel about our shit. I'm like, good luck. That album was whack. Yeah, but it came out, sis. How about that? You could talk all that shit, but that motherfucker had the courage to put their shit out there. Exactly. And I feel like even with this conversation, like, I ain't gonna lie, there's been moments in our conversation where I'm like, should I say that? Should I say that? Yes, you should say that.
Absolutely. I think it needs to feel that way.
And that's just how change happens, is out of discomfort. And I think that, like, the only thing that is for certain in this life is that we're all gonna die. Yep. So who cares? Yep. Make it better for the people that are about to live after you gone. Like when I think about like every time that I have the courage to stand on my little soapbox and be like, I think of my niece, and I think of the fact that like she's a young Black girl, and I would like for her experience when I talk to her when she's older to be a little bit different than mine. Yep. And like, you know that like some of the things that I've gotten flack for, the mouth that I'm not afraid to use and the things I'm not afraid to say, whether people agree with me or not, if it helped change her environment, even just a little bit, then I did my job. Yep. I want to be someone that she can be proud of today, like not in the future. I don't want her to be better than me. That whole shit where people be like, I want my child to be better than me. No, I'm the shit. I don't want you to be better than me. How about I be amazing right now so that I can be an amazing example for you, not better for you. I want better. I want her to have a better life than me. My life is lit. I mean, if you have a better life than me, that's amazing. But where you're starting is also amazing. Yeah. And I think that like we have the opportunity every day to rise to the occasion and do something different every day. Even if you've done fucked up shit, even if you misspoke, even if you've like, it's just like, okay, keep going. Explain what you meant if you did misspeak. Explain, don't stop trying. I said to someone recently, I was just like, so, she told me something. And I was like, well, you've got the rest of your life. So like, are you going to just stop trying?
I mean, imagine all the times if you would have stopped trying. I was thinking this morning, gosh, it seems like so long ago that you actually moved back to the East Coast for a small amount of time and then came back to LA.
I did.
That was crazy.
I
was thinking of that.
That was before I knew you, I feel. Wasn't that? That was before I met you. I met you. Did I meet you? Did I meet you at the Def Jam camp in LA? Or was it the Finland one?
No, I met you at the one in LA at the Stars studio.
Yeah. Well, that was right when I got back.
That's right.
I had just got back. That was when Imani was, I came back for her baby shower for Theo, and crashed on her couch again for the millionth time. Shout out to Imani. Thank you for your couch.
Yeah.
And I did that camp. Man, Def Jam was good to us that year. I did that camp, then I did the St. Lucia camp, then I did the Finland camp. And then like all within that time, me and Famous wrote Replay somewhere in there. Yeah. It might have been like right after we wrote Replay, because it took a second for that record to get placed. It was like we did it for the Rihanna camp. So then initially it was we did it for that, and then it was on hold for Rita Ora for a while. Right. And then like, so it didn't get to Zendaya for like a bit. Like it took a second. But that time in Malibu, what a good time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I was so broke. Yo, how are you feeling about these natural vibes? Do you miss my red? How are you feeling?
I know your hair as both. So I know it as the bright red wig, and then I also know that you have like amazing hair. So when I met you, your hair was like this.
I don't know if like this is a phase or if like this is where I'm at, but like I was telling Chanel today, I was like, I'm scared to say this, but kind of am over the red. I don't know. I'm so scared to say it. I know. I feel so scared to say it, but I just feel like she said something to me today, like, it's so much easier to just be yourself, isn't it? And I just thought this whole time, like I created Tiffany Red because I was trying to draw a hard line for the industry because I've already was in the industry, you know, as a songwriter. And so I was trying to draw a very hard line that was like, Tiffany Fred did this. Now I'm Tiffany Red, and this is what I do. Sometimes I do that, but a lot of times I focus on this. You know, I felt like changing the hair and doing the, you know, rebrand like really helps me morph into who I already was.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the truth. It's like, I already was a producer. I already was an artist. I already was a singer. I was all these things. I just wasn't empowered to be. And I was discouraged to do so. You know, I would write records and like, I remember my manager at one time was like, this is great, but like, let's give it to someone else. And I just was like, but it's about me. And he's like, cool story, bro. You know, like, and so like changing my name and changing the hair and creating an alter ego was kind of like Tiffany 2.0 so that everyone could get the point. Because I always be trying to draw these hard lines. You know, I feel like as an artist, you feel like there has to be some sort of gimmick. But now, though, I feel like there's just more room. There's just more room. And so I'm trying to not get boxed in by the gimmick of me as the gimmick part of me as an artist,
right?
Or not let it box me in. Like, I feel like this is probably what Alicia Keys was going through when she used to rock her hair in braids. Like, I remember the first time she didn't have braids, and the first time they played with it. It was like one side was out, the other side was braided, and everyone was like, oh, "Is Alicia fine as hell? What's going on here?" And then she said, and we said, "Oh shit!" We said, "Oh shit, she's a bad bitch. She is a bad bitch." You know what I mean? And I feel like as an artist, everybody goes through that, like peeling back their layers, because gimmick is part of it. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I have no idea. There's a part of me that's been thinking about releasing music under my real name, because I've released music under my real name. I released Drake under Tiffany Red. You went back and forth with this with your poor Zac Poor, poor boy. Like, what do you?
I
give
did.
Me some advice, friend.
And you need to hang out with my niece for a day, because what ultimately happened was I was going back and forth, and it was right before I was about to put out new music. I was like, text my brother. I was like, hey, I just need you to really like praying on this, because with everything I had went through in the music industry, I really had this weird aversion to using my name. And so you get boxed in, like you mentioned earlier, to kind of being this one type of thing. I was this kind of failed artist, became songwriter.
And everyone knew you.
Yes. It was attached to this kind of idea. And I was doing a lot of design work and photography. And it was kind of like, well, Zach does that now. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll do Poor Boys, the music thing, yada, yada. I picked up my niece and nephew from school, and I had this Wayne Dyer book called Wishes Fulfilled sitting in the back seat. And I kept looking at them in the rearview mirror, like I often do when I'm driving, like asking them about their day, if I've picked them up from school or whatever. And my nephew's kind of giving me this funny look. And I was like, Aiden, what's going on? And he was like, Bella wrote in your book. And I was like, Bella? And she's like, what? I just wrote your name. And she had wrote Zac Poor, period. And I had just literally in the parking lot while picking them up, texted my brother and said, should I go with Poor Boy, even though I'm having a hard time getting the Spotify stuff? Or should I like work on getting rid of the shame that I've attached to Zac Poor and just feel like I should still have confidence to put stuff out under my name? Like I'm not hiding, you know, like it's still Zac Poor, the person whose music never came out, the person who got dropped, the person that's in a bad deal, the person who's, you know, whatever, went through their shit. Should I just do it as my name? And he's like, I don't know, you know, I'll think about it. Like, he's like, be confident, brother, in whatever you do. So then I pick up my niece and nephew, and she literally just writes the answer in my book. So I just went with Zac Poor right afterwards. I was putting out High with Rio, and we had actually put it up as Poor Boy in Rio, and I took it down like weeks afterwards, and I resubmitted it as Zac Poor in Rio. And it did, same as what you're saying, like I felt instantly more proud, I guess, because my real name was there. Exactly. Yeah. And
that's the reason why I've been starting to think about not changing the name and just leaving it. You know, I think that Tiffany Red, changing my name was what gave me the confidence to be all that I was.
That's right.
I was always Tiffany Red.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel, right? Like I have this picture of myself on the shelf from when I was little, and my nails were red. In the picture, I was like making biscuits, right? My, you know, the nail polish is peeling off, but like my nails were red. And it's like my nails have been red my whole life. Like those are the things that keep me aligned with that, but like the identity issue you go through as an artist is so interesting because it's like you have no control over what people grow to love you for. And if what they grow to love you for was just a blip on the map while you were figuring it out, then you get stuck in whatever identity they fall in love with you as. You know what I mean? You're like, oh shit. Like when I think about like, because I know a lot of artists who changed their name.
Yeah.
Like shit. You look at Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean changed his name. The industry already knew him. And they knew him as a songwriter. And he's a great songwriter too. So people are like, dog, we want these records from you. I don't know what the fuck you talking about. Like, let me get that. I'm trying to place this, you know? And so I feel like if he didn't change his name and make that statement and proclaim to be more than what people were trying to tell him he could be, I don't know that it would have translated the same way. And so there's a part of me, even with myself, like even though Tiffany Red is close to Tiffany Fred, it still was new. So like it was just like the industry still knew it was me, sure. But like for the parts of the industry that didn't know me, they got to meet somebody completely different and someone brand new and shiny. You know what I mean? Especially because I'm not 21, you know, so it's just like everybody wants to sign a girl that's 22. And I'm like, hi, I'm 33. I've been in the business for over a decade and I'm not fucking playing with you. They're like, we can't sign her. She's too expensive. And I'm like, I want millions. And you got to give it to me because I'm not broke. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just a fucking, you know, like, right. It's not easy. It's not easy. No. Like, I'm like, I know too much. You can't fucking play me. I've been unsure about whether I want to say this, but I'm going to say this because I feel like someone needs to hear it. I went into this quarantine with some new goals and some new things that I wanted to manifest, right? And I really set my attention on stability and financial security and peace. And in the quarantine, in the pandemic, I got both. I was like, I've built my credit like up to like maybe 750 something, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in the 7. And my credit is demolished right now again because of my accident, right? It was just like going through what everyone's going through right now, where it was like, oh my God, I can't pay my bills. Minus the fact that there wasn't a pandemic. So American Express was like, girl, you know what I mean? Yep. Sorry about your rib. Fuck off, right? So here we are with ruined credit again, right? And so like going into the beginning of this season, I was like, all right, God, like I really want another shot at this money thing. Like I really want another shot. I don't know how I'm going to get to that. Everything just got canceled. I had just written for the last episode of Empire, and then I found out they couldn't shoot it. Like I just felt so like, okay, everything is just like, I just got through this accident and now the whole world is being shut down and my finances are being stretched. And I just downsized. I redid my whole life because of how undone everything came. Then this season came, right? And I was like, all right, I was just starting to financially get my footing again after my accident. And then boom, cue the pandemic. And I'm like, but I wanted to save money. Like I was like, this was my focus. You know what I mean? I'm like, I wanted to save money and I wanted to do my taxes and I wanted to get my credit right and I wanted to buy a new car and I wanted to like really, really save money and I wanted to write the last episode of Empire. It's about to be over. This is it. It was so important to me. I was like, I have to write the last Tiana and Hakeem duet. It has to be me. Then I see, you know, Lee Daniels is talking about how devastated he is. They're not going to be able to shoot the last episode and all this shit. And I'm just like, and then I ended up getting the last episode anyway, because the last episode that they shot and had all the music to was the last episode I wrote for. Yeah. So I ended up writing for the season finale of Empire anyway. And then Astra and SAG, you know, pushed out everybody's distribution early because of the pandemic. That's awesome.
Good job,
and SAG. Yeah, shout out to SAG and Astra, y'all. So I get this. So I'm like, all right, like I'm feeling like a way about money, right? So I paid my rent last month, and I was feeling like, all right, I'm gonna pay my rent for May, but like I had a number in my head on like what I was not willing to ever let my savings fall under again. Like I just was like, I'm not Like, this is it. Like, I'm not.
Yep.
So I had my zero. So like I had zero plus like maybe $500 after I paid my rent. And I just was so stressed because I felt like I didn't have any money. Even though I had some money in my savings, I just was like, God, like I'm really trying to like listen, and I'm trying to save this money. I'm trying to be a grown ass woman, and like I'm trying to have my shit together the way it looks like I do. Like I just want to be authentic. Like, this is fuck shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I really seriously, it's like I'm a 33-year-old woman, you know, who has fucked up credit. It's like, girl, grow up. You know what I mean? Like, and so I was just like really fixated on trying to fix my finances. And then I got that check from AFTRA or from SAG, and it was so much money, so much more money that it was so blindsided. It was from some old shit, Zach.
That's awesome.
So I got peace. I got financial stability. I was able to save exactly how much money I said I wanted to save. And I got to my goal in the pandemic.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think that's a really great, that's a really great message. It's really great for people to hear that, you know, setting intentions and having goals, that doesn't have to stop, and you can still flourish during this time. I mean,
well, and like, I mean, I felt a way about sharing that because, I mean, you know, look, like I know that my experience is not everybody else's experience, and that, you know, I am blessed. What came to me is something I worked for, you know, so it's not like some money fell out the sky that I didn't earn. But the divine timing of it was just like me praying and being faithful and being like, God, I don't know how this is going to work. And like, I got to do these taxes to get the stimulus check. And I might as well be, the stimulus check was pretty much paying for my taxes to be done pretty much. You know what I'm saying? It's like, after I finished paying for 2018 and 19, it's like, my accountant is like, that'll be, and I'm like, but that's almost all of my money. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right. Like,
but still also a blessing that money went to paying off your taxes. Like,
the timing of that, like, sure, I worked for that money, but God was like, cue it now. When you actually need it, when you actually have a plan for it, when you actually, you know what I mean? And like, it was beautiful to experience because I just was like, wow. And I almost felt like, I was telling one of my girlfriends, I was like, you know, I almost felt guilty a little bit for being okay financially in a season like this because it's such a stressful one for everyone else around. But I was grateful to get to be someone that gets to share the good news, though, that like it's not all fucked. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've watched so many cool things happen in this season. Like one of my friends, her cousin had a baby. The baby's about to be a month already. You know what I'm saying? It's just like time is still going. Like things are still happening. My grandmom just turned 78. She's the first person in her family to live past 77. She told me she stayed up. She stayed up till midnight on her 78th birthday. Like, I don't know. There's been so many things that have been so fire and beautiful that have been birthed in this season. It's like watching what everyone's doing and watching what everyone's building is mind-blowing. Come on. Could you have ever imagined that you would be doing fucking...
This isn't the way I saw it, but what this is doing is I've had a problem with presenting with perfection, and this is a very imperfect platform for me to do it. And so curating.
And by the way, here's the thing though. Here's what I love about you. No matter how hard you try, your aesthetic shits on everybody. So it doesn't. When I saw the commercial for Pour Me a Cup, I was like, of course. Like I just was like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like you're so you don't need it's you. It's not, it doesn't matter what and I think that's the hardest thing to believe as an artist, as a creator. And I think that's something we all go through no matter how fucking high up or how small or low on the totem pole you are. I feel like there's no one, that's a human feeling of being like, is anyone gonna like it?
Yeah, totally.
Even if it is like for you to think that Beyonce at some point isn't like it's bullshit. She just does it with her person and then she walks out and she's Sasha Fierce for everybody else.
Yep.
And like I think that even though you feel those things, because I be feeling the same way, like at the end of the day, like you're also like really fucking good at what you do though. So it's like even given just like You know how like you give someone like a group of people the same supplies and everyone comes up with like a different, or like the sip and paint, everyone's picture looks different
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
same paint, the same can, you know, and I just feel like everyone has the same iPhone with the same shit in their house, but somehow your shit still looks like fashion.
I wanted to ask you one more question before we go. I wanted to ask you, we have a lot of creatives that listen to the podcast. It's like just an encouraging word for maybe people that are in it, but not sure if they want to keep doing it, or people that haven't really taken their chance to go after their dream. But was there a certain spark, or is there just a certain story that really encouraged you enough to keep going?
I feel like when you are someone who really knows what you want to do, that's a gift. Everybody doesn't have that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I feel like, you know, stuff like this is tricky because, or the question like that is tricky because I don't think that everyone is equipped with the same gifts as everyone else. And I think the ability to know is a gift in its own. And then also, you know, like I genuinely believed that I could my whole life. Like whether, like I didn't discover music until I was in college, like as a songwriter specifically, but I've been writing since I was a child. Right. And like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, my whole life until I was in college when I discovered music. But I did know that I wanted to be me though. I knew that I wanted to be my own person. Like I didn't know what that looked like. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody. I knew that I wanted to make up my own rules. I didn't know how, especially in the world that I grew up in. It was very much so like, you know, you go to school, you go to college, you save your money, you meet a boy, you get married, you have a family, you know what I mean? And like, so I didn't know how I fit into that, but I knew that I didn't fit. I've always knew that since I was a child. And I was born with the fire that I have still. I think that my environment nurtured it and gave it the opportunity, or not just nurtured it, but really gave it the opportunity, because my parents weren't very supportive of my music shit most of my career, if I'm being honest. But you know, I mean, they are now. Love you, mom and dad. They are now. We've since then worked through those things. But like the beginning of it was rocky and it was bumpy. They were fucking scared. They don't know. I want to be a fucking songwriter. My mom's like, I'm an accountant, lady. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but I'm like, I got these dreams. And I'm the oldest. And I'm like, I'm moving to California. You know what I mean? It just was like, girl, what? To be a songwriter, you can't even go to college for that. Like, how are you going to make money, young lady? You know? And like, but I always believed that I could. That never wavered. Like, I've stopped writing for like 2 years before, like right before I like transitioned into becoming an artist. And like, even when I stopped writing music and I thought like I was never going to write again, I still believed in myself in the direction I was headed though. Like there's never been a time where I didn't believe in me. And I don't know why. I have no idea why. Like, I think, you know, my dad was the most popular guy in high school, literally, in the yearbook. Like, he's the hottest dude in school. Like, I was raised by the coolest dude, right? So I don't know if, like, I'm pretty sure his confidence and my mom's confidence, too, because, I mean, if you're married to the most popular guy in high school, you already know what's that. You know, so, like, I think being raised by those type of people helped me become that kind of person as well. I believe my inner talk. Yeah. I believe it. Even when people tell me I can't do something, like I've always thoroughly enjoyed proving someone wrong. There have been so many people in my career that have fucked me over. And I mean, at this stage in the game, I've flipped all of them off now. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to do that. I worked long enough to be like, you can't work with me, sir, ever again. Yeah. I would say my advice would be to tap into mentors, like whether it doesn't have to be somebody in the industry, just someone with wisdom who's been on this earth longer than you. Because like, even it doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, some industry advice. It's like, life is life. A deal is a deal. Like money is money. A business is a business. Like someone knows what a bad deal is from a good deal. Like, and I think that when you're young and ambitious, especially when you don't listen. And that was something that I really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I've always known, dang, I need to write that down. Because I've always known, I spent a lot of time not listening.
Right.
When I was younger, because I fucking knew who I was, but I knew who I was, but I was still immature. I still needed some guidance. And so like, I'm grateful to have, I didn't seek most of the mentors that God put in my life. My life was written and it is written. And so I don't think that any one thing gets you to any one place. I think it's a bunch of things. Drink water, take your vitamins.
Undervalued. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I know we've had a lot of fun, long coffee conversations before. I was excited to have another one with you today. I'm excited about your new EP, Seeing Red, which is out everywhere now. And then when is I know you and Mickey Shiloh do a podcast. When does that premiere? Is it weekly or is it?
Yeah, we do it every Wednesday.
Cool.
Yep. So that's what's coming up next week. So
Awesome.
Yeah, but it's every Wednesday.
Cool.
Red and Mickey.
Great. Well, I love you. I appreciate you chatting to me.
Too.
And I miss our Largemont Bungalow coffees, but someday we'll be back there. Thank you for this. I'll chat with you. I'll message you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Pour Me a Cup. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to Pour Me a Cup wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us on Instagram at Pour Me a Cup. I'm Zac Poor. See you next time.